All right, we're recording now, fellas, so let's not screw around anymore. Let's just try and keep it going.
All right, yeah. Keep it going.
All right, well, listen, do you want to, why don't we just start the show? Why do we always have to screw around for half an hour?
Because we're, the kind of people that just, we meander in our thoughts. We have lots of non sequiturs in our brains that have to come out, and, we'll follow the order of things because we're rebels.
What do you say about that, Frederick? He's such a rebel, he's not even going to answer that.
No, I was just listening, seeing where that was going, trying to think of something to say. And he said rebels. And I'm thinking that we're rebels without a cause, we're rebels with a cause, along that train of thought. I still haven't decided whether we're rebels with cause or rebels without a cause.
When I was a kid, my favorite frozen confectionery was were they called Revels?
Oh, Revel, with a V in it.
Yeah. Were they Revels? Yeah.
What were they?
There was Revels. They were fudgicle kind of things, weren't they?
I can't remember if they were Revels or Fudgicles.
Well, it was a fudgicle. Oh, wait a minute. What was the chocolate coated ice cream?
Well, that's what I think that might have been the Revel, and the Fudgicle was just a full solid
thing of chocolate ice cream. Yeah,
a thing about ice cream. Yeah.
This Revel, I know not what you speak. Was this a Western thing?
It might be, or there's a very good chance I could. I don't know.
But I know, because you used to get it was ice cream with the thin, hard chocolate coating on it.
Yeah.
I remember those, but I don't remember them being called Revels. They could have been.
Here they are. Revels are a chocolate-coated confectionery with assorted centers made by Mars. First introduced into the UK in 1967.
Oh, the Brits.
Oh, the British. Oh, we'd like a Revel. Revels, dude.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, there you go. I didn't like Revels a lot. I like the creamsicles.
Oh, I love creamsicles. Have you had a creamsicle lately?
No, I haven't.
They got way, way, way smaller.
Oh, shrinkflation.
Okay. All right,
man.
All right.
Huge.
All right, All right, Ombudsman. Shrinkflation. Yeah, dude, I can't believe how much smaller the creamsicle is now.
The shrinkflation, it hit home with me a couple of weeks ago because I used to love Bits and Bites, and then I just didn't have them.
Bits and Bites.
What are these Bits and Bites?
I used to love Bits and Bites.
Anyway, Delise, the kids were coming over a couple of weeks ago and bought some snacks, including a bag of those. That's funny how big that bag is now. Like, it's embarrassing.
Can you describe Bits and Bites for me? Because I'm not sure if we're talking about the same things.
They're the little pretzel sticks and the little Cheerios and the Shreddies.
But we called them something different before they were Bits and Bites.
Something mix? So what was that?
I don't know, but I think out west or in my childhoods, those things were not called
Party
Bits and
mix?
Bites. Nah. Oh. They were called something else, but we're talking about the same thing.
Yeah. Do you remember the commercials? What are these Bits and Bites? What are these Bits and Bites?
Mm-hmm. No, I don't.
Well, you were out. You were out west.
We only had two channels.
Didn't even have TV.
No, we had two channels. One of them was just a cow, 24/7.
Yeah.
No, anyway, there's another name for those that if I could remember it would be great because you'd go, oh yeah, that
Nuts
thing.
And bolts?
Nuts and bolts. Nuts and bolts. See, Dan, and you're sitting there just being all super judgy, thinking this you're like, this bit's going nowhere.
Oh, I was looking it up. Nuts and bolts is totally what. Now, is there shredded nuts and bolts? Because that's the only thing I cared about in either one of those things. There's the shreddies with the flavor in them, right?
Okay, here's the thing. Everybody did. I used to hate the shreddies in there, too. They were useless.
Oh, I liked them.
No,
I liked them.
I'm sorry.
That's what makes the world go round.
I used to find them bulky, and I had no use for them. But what I did, and I think everyone did, is I would take the pretzels, and I would stick them into the Cheerio.
Right. and pretend they were screwing, right?
Yeah, no, I didn't do that as a 7-year-old, Fred.
Okay.
As a 7-year-old, I didn't go, oh, this fucking pretzel is fucking a Cheerio. Later, maybe. Dan,
this pretzel's fucking a Cheerio.
Hey, mommy, look, mother, look, I'm making this pretzel. I have to make love to the Cheerio. Dan, did you never put the pretzel into the Cheerio? Or was that too? Was that against baby Jesus?
That was not part of the Lutheran upbringing at all. No, I never occurred to me to put it in.
Sometimes I would put 2 Cheerios on one end, on each end of the pretzel. It was like a little axle and
that's
wheels.
Right.
And, yeah.
Or was it like a 3-way between the pretzel and 2 Cheerios?
Yeah. The pretzel and the Cheerio would say, let's nail the shreddy. Anyway.
That's right. But nuts and bolts, that's what they were called. I don't know if that was the original name and then they became Bits and Bites.
And maybe that commercial I'm talking about was, what are these nuts and bolts? Maybe. I don't know. Anyway, doesn't matter.
But Dan, the whole reason they were called nuts and bolts is because the Cheerios were like the nuts, were they not? And the bolts were the pretzels.
I don't know.
What other explanation could there? Well, that's what they are. They're nuts and bolts, meaning, okay, it doesn't matter. That's what they were built for that.
Here's the upside, though, of shrinkflation, if there is one. Because, of course, they keep the price the same or bump it up a bit and then, reduce the size of the package. If a guy's sitting here on a couch, like just over there watching a hockey game on that TV there, and he comes down with a bag of Bits and Bites, right? And he thinks to himself, I'm going to have a few of these, but I'm not going to eat the whole bag. I'm going to watch what I do.
Mm-hmm.
And then the next thing you know, you get caught up in what you're watching, and the bag is empty. You can walk away thinking, well, years ago, that would have been bad to eat all that.
That's right.
But now, hey, I don't feel so bad about myself because of these fuckers and their
shrinkflation.
I only ate half of what I would have before at the same price, mind.
So a guy who you're talking about is does his name rhyme with Fred? That guy,
Ted? You mean? Or
yeah, is his name rhyme with Ted? Hey, Dan.
Yeah.
If you go back, if somebody were listening to this podcast, and there's a very good chance that'll happen. If you go back about 7 minutes and 30 seconds ago, less than that, I should say, 7 minutes ago, where you said, we meander, we go on, our brain works in a non sequitur way. Just think about the last 7 minutes of our lives. And now it's time for Dan, everybody.
This episode of Humble and Fred is being broadcast to the world from our state-of-the-art Humble and Fred studio in Toronto, from our Brampton facility with a soon-to-be-open pool, and from Peterborough at Lisa's dining room table next to trendy Black Sticks in a Vase. I'm Dan Duran, broadcasting live from the Richard Bullis Zoom Theater, and brought to you by the Retirement Sherpa, the Chambers Plan, Boron One, Bodog, and Lender's Choice Mortgages. And now here are 2 disappointed men whose hockey team couldn't score enough. Their Kentucky Derby horse couldn't run fast enough. But they are excited about tonight's New York Met Gala because they don't care enough. It's Rebels, Humble, and Fred.
We'll get to all of that, but first we say welcome back from the Humble and Fred weekend, everybody, and thank you, announcer Dan Duran. A lot of people reached out to us over the last few days. Topics of conversation, of course, based on a lot of the stuff we talked about last week. And I just got to get right to it, Dan, because the number one thing that came up, it's certainly in conversation. Fred, you know what I'm going to say.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Did I wake you up? Fuck.
Oh, I was mid-burp, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I heard it. So what came up on the show at the end of the week last week was the fact that Dan had gone to the doctor, and we were all Dan's friends, Dan. All universally have come together and are basically colon shaming you. But remember, the reason that we're doing it is because we don't want you to die.
Right.
So everything, just remember, everything that's about to happen
Oh no! Is this like an intervention?
is through a filter. That's a great idea. I wish I would have thought of that. We should have had like Darren, Earl, Dave, everybody on the Zoom with a colon intervention. That would have been a great idea. It's too late now. It's too late now. No, all the jokes that are about to happen are all because
right.
we care for you. Is that not true, Burpee? Hey, Burpee.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I assume that's what you were getting at. Although at some point, I think we should let Dan, because he claims on some level we got it all wrong. Maybe Dan should be able to explain exactly what he meant, because when he tried to explain it the other day, I still didn't understand, his explanation. What do you think of that?
Okay. I mean, I can briefly explain what I thought was the whole colonoscopy part was to establish whether or not your prostate was having any issues, because that's the big male thing that everybody's been, talking to me about. And that's what I thought the colonoscopy was for, that I didn't have one, and you guys have been encouraging me to get one. But the poop test is the thing that's going to be the first thing my doctor recommended to do.
Okay, well, that doesn't help.
Okay, well, yeah. You know what? It does.
That made it worse.
Yeah, it does. It does help with these jokes that I've written, though.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
It does help.
It does help.
By the way, after the show, Lisa told me she was just
howling
herself, saying, she was saying, just be quiet.
Just stop talking.
Don't talk.
And you should let Fred know that I followed up with you.
Yeah, because Howard was worried that I felt offended or bad. I mean, I understand what's going on with the show and everything and how this works. So I wasn't. I'm still not. It's just, okay, I made a moving forward. But
so
here we go.
What Dan's re-explanation has established is that Dan didn't know what was and wasn't your prostate or colon. So, Dan, I've prepared just a very brief list of things that are also not your colon. Other things that are not your colon, Dan. Your bum cheeks. They are not your colon. Dan, your taint. Mm-hmm. Also not your colon. And Dan, your anus is not your colon. It is all those things in the bum area. All of them are all those things are important, but they are not your colon.
Right.
And most of all, your prostate is not your colon.
Yes.
If I could nitpick there, though, your anus is gateway to your colon.
Oh, please nitpick away. I don't want
this is the gateway to the colon.
I really don't want you two to think that I spent more than 8 seconds on.
Right.
As the show was starting, I was writing down things that are not your colon. Yes, the anus is the gateway to your colon. Also,
you can't
by the
get
way,
to your colon without your anus.
And to be fair, to nitpick on your nitpicking, the whole thing is a gateway to your prostate. The anus is also a gateway to your prostate.
I know, and it's funny. It's funny.
Is it?
You called Dan the other day. See, I called Dan after that, but was to ask him a couple of technical questions about his trailer. I didn't think to touch upon that because, Dan sort of set that table himself. So I just thought it was funny, and I thought we can't let that go by without, jumping all over it. The fact that, a colonoscopy and a prostate exam are somewhere in the same world. That's all. Why did you?
Well, part of the reason I called him is I was heading north on Kingsway, about to turn into the Bloor West Village, and that makes me think of Dan because that's where he and I used to live, and so I thought of him, and I said, "Hey, Dan, I'm calling you from your old neighborhood," and we mused about that, and I said, "I hope you were okay with all of us." All the jokes about how you didn't know the prostate was colon, but I mean, here Dan knows both of us. Certainly knows me well enough to know if you put, I don't know the difference between the prostate and the colon. It's like a beach ball on a tee. It's like we're not going to not swing at it.
Well, this is it.
I think Dan knows what he's doing. He knows what he's doing when it comes to comedy. Mm-hmm. Or do you? Either way, it doesn't matter.
No,
Hey,
It doesn't
listen.
matter.
It provided a memorable moment on the Humble and Fred show, if nothing else. If nothing else.
Oh, no, it was a lot. It was a lot.
And much appreciated, Dan. Whether it was intentional, unintentional, wherever it came from, it was appreciated.
all right.
Here was some of the response from our group, our buddy Darren Yee. Darren, I was also amused and bewildered when Dan referenced and associated men's health issues with his digital rectal exam, basically implying that when a doctor sticks his fingers in your ass, he's taking your temperature for the full gamut of all health issues. You're free to go, Mr. Duran. I checked your temperature and everything else appears fine with all your men's health issues. Yeah, Dan thinks like you stick your finger in the ass and it's like your heart, your spleen, your kidneys.
A little low on vitamin C, Dan.
Anyway,
Okay.
it was a great moment in Humble and Fred history. Very similar to, well, you brought it up. Yeah, very similar to some of the stuff that we went through with Phil and the Chinese secret police. I think I said that to somebody. It might have even been you. Dan is the new Phil. Well, he's not the new Phil. He's just Phil-like in that his ability to stumble upon. Like, here's you and I every day trying to think of something that will be amusing or come out of our mouths. But Dan just somehow fumbling around in the river mines comedy gold.
Yeah, this is it. Yeah, that pretty much says it all right there. Great value in that. Great value in that.
Dan, maybe tomorrow when I put some thought into this, I'll have more things that are not Uranus.
Right, yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
And again, remember that I preface it all by saying we do this because,
Well, you love me.
I love you, and all of us will be pissed if we're at your funeral going, you see, Dan just thought it was a bit. But I will be more prepared at your eulogy with things that are not Uranus. Okay? Things that are not your colon.
All right.
Yeah. Well, there's no doubt we love you. That's just a given. You're like a bro.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, I feel more like, oh yeah, of course he's a brother. He's a brother.
I said bro.
I know you did because you're cool. Mm-hmm. For me, and I'm being sincere, Dan is like my family. I'm closer to Dan. Well, I mean, I'm close to my brothers, but like Dan's in the family. And if Dan dies and it's preventable, but here's the thing, Dan, there's lots of ways Dan will die that has nothing to do with this. Like he once almost chainsawed his own face off. So that's certainly still in play. But with something like this as preventable, we'll all be pissed off.
Yeah, let's just hope it's not that. Let's move it on to other possibles.
Yeah, man.
Ways Dan will die. Yeah,
it's complete.
That's right.
New podcast. Exploring ways I could die.
It's completely plausible that one day we'll find him at the bottom of the lake at the end of his dock because he turned and slipped and fell, banged his head, became unconscious, went in the water, something like that. Yeah, I often worry about that.
Well, you'll find him naked though, because a lot of the times he's jumps in that lake naked so he can do his bathing.
There'll be a school of bass nesting on his taint.
That's right. Like a rigor mortis will set in, and people will think, "Is that a submarine? Is there a submarine in this lake? I had no idea. Someone's periscope seems to be rising to the surface." Fred has, we have two stories for you, Dan. Fred ordered some food and had to take it back, and I have a return story as well, Fred.
Yeah, I didn't take it back, Howard.
But it's a return story.
Yes, it is, Howard. We had a little Thai restaurant. It was called Thai Pepper, close to us. We loved it. Doll really loved it. She's bigger on the Thai food than I am. But it was a great little restaurant, private thing, tasted homemade, all that stuff we've talked about on the show. The guy closed. He retired, and nobody bought the business, so it was gone. The other night, Doll wanted some Thai food. I thought, okay. We look around. Brampton, big on the Indian food and the Jamaican, all right, but not so big on the Thai food. So I find this place is called Thai Express, and I'm thinking, oh, that's one of those takeout places that you would see in a mall or something. But hey, you don't know until you give it a try. To order before you pick it up, you have to become a member online, and then you can order because you have to put your card in and all that, your credit card. So I did that, and I placed the order, and I was quite surprised at how quickly it would be ready. They didn't deliver out this far where I am. So I drove to get it, and it was there, and it was great, and brought it home, and we opened it up, anxious to try this new Thai food, and it was awful. It was awful. I just got to be honest. We got a green beef curry, and it was not spicy at all, and I had asked for medium spice. The beef was really chewy, and sort of the curry sauce was just thicker than it should be. It was just odd. The pad thai, same thing, weird. It had chicken in it. The chicken was chewy.
Well, I'm sorry, was the weird part that it had chicken? Did you not order chicken pad thai?
Yes.
Oh,
but
okay.
the chicken was chewy.
Oh, I see.
And tough, so it was just an unpleasant experience because you're eating it, and then this other guy we used to go to was always tender and delicious, and the beef was tender and flavorful. It was a very unpleasant experience, and then we got these fresh spring rolls. Huh?
I said it sounds horrible.
We got these fresh spring rolls, which were huge, great. But they were wrapped in this saran wrap. As you tried to unwrap them, everything fell apart. It was just bizarre. So anyway, wasn't happy. It was like $60, and I thought there's a waste of $60. And Delise is a lot more particular than me, so as much as I didn't enjoy it, she would not enjoy it even more, if you follow.
But let me ask you, because I'm that way. Like, even if it's bad, I'm such a pig. I'll be like, I can just eat it.
Yeah.
And not really, take note that it wasn't very good, but still eat it.
Well, I didn't have seconds because the chewy meat was just weird to me. Anyway, and then when you become a member on your phone online, you become, you have access to all their specials and all that, whatever they do, and the ability to order and delivery if they come into your area. It's all there, but I also saw a complaint thing. So I thought, I'm going to complain. So I wrote this thing up saying, I gave the story, used to have a place, was looking for a new place, and I thought I would give Thai Express a chance, and the experience was awful, and I described everything that was wrong. And I was surprised. This was a Saturday, around 4 or 5 o'clock. By 7 o'clock, I had a response saying, send us a picture of your bill.
I have a question. Was it a response to your email or a response on the app?
On the app, but then they emailed me.
Right.
Because of the app. So this girl got back to me quite quickly, and she said, let me have your receipt. So I sent her the receipt. Next morning, Sunday morning, I get a response saying, that's not the receipt I want. I want the actual thing from the email we sent you. I want that receipt. I said, okay. And she said, if you could send a picture of the food too. And I thought, okay. So I get what was left and put it on the counter, took a picture. Anyway, the long and the short of it, I found out last night, Sunday night, that they're going to refund $40 of the $60. And like you, Howard, when I told you about this earlier this morning, at first I thought, that's pretty cool. And then the more I thought about it, I thought, that's sort of weird.
It is kind of weird.
Well, then I read the explanation from the picture I sent her. The fresh rolls, one I hadn't eaten yet. She assumed I had eaten the other one, so she added that up and then added the tax. Didn't refund those, but refunded the pad thai and the beef curry. And I thought, that's sort of weird. I said, if I'm running a business and I'm going to give a refund, I think, hey, I'm going to refund the whole thing and leave me with this feeling of, that's really cool. I'll give it another shot. But honestly, at 2/3, I'm thinking that's a bit nitpicky and weird. I think it just sort of adds to the fact that I will never go back there. What do you think of that?
Well, when you first told me that they refund, let me jump back a while in your story. The fact that they responded that quickly doesn't surprise me. I don't know about you, Dan, but I'm not surprised by customer service like that anymore because because people are so on top of those reviews, Google reviews, complaints now. It's in the olden days. We used to have to write a letter and then mimeograph it. But, now it's instantaneous. And when you first told me the story, I thought, at least they gave you $40 of your $60 back. But then the more we talked about it, I was like, that is kind of strange. Like, where do they arrive at that? Like, why did they? Okay, sorry for how shitty you thought our food was, but here's 60% of what you spent.
But you did go ahead and eat something, so we're going to deduct it, which is like, well, hey, we've already got the meal. We're eating it because it was plated.
We wouldn't have known it was shitty if we didn't eat it.
Well, that's it. And that's the point Delise made. And like anything else now, portions aren't what they used to. So her and I just having a plate each didn't leave much left in those bowls. Where honestly, if I liked it, I probably would have finished it off. You know me. But it was just not good. So I didn't. And listen, I appreciate the quick response, but as you say, Howard, that's just good business on their part because it's so competitive now, and you can be so damaged by that stuff. I get it. So it's not out of the goodness of their heart. They're just smart business people from that aspect. But the 2/3, it just seems, as I say, it's like...
I'd complain again.
Of course, if it were Dan, he would have set up a mini Gaza outside of the Thai Express for crying out loud.
Yeah.
I would have climbed the ranks a little bit there.
And I can't put my finger on it why that bugs me, but it's like, well, you ate that, so we're not paying for that. You ate part of that, so we'll pay for part of that. It's like, okay.
But that is why. I mean, they're saying, but there's no other way. I mean, you could keep this going because, what else you got to do today? I mean, you could say, listen, I ate some of it to find out how terrible it was. But my point about good customer service or just best practices is those companies, at the very least, you're going to walk away from this. Let's say you didn't have a show, you could discuss it with your buddies. You would walk away at least thinking, you know what? Because they've all, you have pretty good taste when it comes to ethnic food. You know what's good and bad. But what they at least have prevented is you from shit talking them. I mean, other than this show.
Right.
Like what as a normal person, you're what they've sort of cut off at the pass is you going on and putting a review about how terrible it was. Because at least you've had some part, at least there's been a bit of a good experience.
And you can still go online and do that though.
Yeah, and believe me, it's not over getting another $20 back. It isn't.
No, I know.
It's this. If they had fully refunded me, I would have probably thought, you know what? The pad thai, maybe if I don't get chicken or something, I'll give it another shot. Maybe just shrimp. I might give it another shot. But this 2/3 thing, just I come away going, no, I'm never going. Honestly, I'm not going back there. I'm not.
Well, but here's the thing. Like, if you had gotten the full refund, you're saying you might have given a second chance. But
I would have thought
the partial refund is just too weird. I get it.
Yeah, part of it, because I would have thought quick response, full refund. These people deserve a second shot. That's what I may think. But you know what kills me about those places? Like, I'm in there and there's people in and out. Like, there's a lot of people that think that's Thai food.
Oh, man.
You go to a real Thai food restaurant, like the one I had, Thai Pepper, and it was just so good and so wholesome. And
well, that's what I'm saying to you. In my neighborhood, the reason it's so easy to eat takeout food, not fast food.
Yes.
I don't want to, because when I went to the other day, I had the Portuguese chicken from the place next door. I hadn't had it for a while, but it's better than I could make. And they made it.
Of course, yeah.
Same with the Thai place down the street, or the Korean place, or the Jamaican place next door. It's better food than I could make, and it doesn't. It's not like express food. You know what? Another place that was big in Toronto for a while. I'm not even sure if they're still in business, but I used to think the same thing you just said. Remember this place called Holy Chow?
Yes. No MSG. Remember, that was their thing.
That was their thing. Was it Holy Chow? There was another one called Panda Express, or was it Holy Chow?
No, it was Holy Chow. What I remember, there was one near us,
and there probably is another place, Panda Express. But that what you just said is, I used to think the same thing. Like, is this what people think? Actual Asian food tastes like? Because it's not.
Yeah,
it's a homogenized version of it, or whatever.
It
Canadianized version.
Holy shit! They hung the thing on the no MSG, and I don't know how that may have affected the taste, but it wasn't very good.
What's that, Daniel?
I was going to say that the Thai food, I've had the same problem with actual restaurants trying to. I've been to Thailand and had the food, and I've had good Thai food in Toronto before. I can't remember where.
Golden Thai was fantastic.
Golden Thai is amazing on Richmond Street. Amazing place. Yeah. We used to go there all the time.
Around Peterborough, have had trying to get good pad Thai. There's been ketchup as the sauce. I mean, it's just like, I don't know.
That's right. That's what they do in Thailand. They just put ketchup on everything.
It's not that complicated to make any of these dishes, because Thai food generally is all about being fresh. And your first clue would have been that the fresh spring roll that you had was wrapped in saran.
Yeah,
saran
wrap. Yeah.
Why would they do that? The only reason is because when the outer wrap is made of rice, and you basically throw it in a water bath for about 30 seconds to a minute, and then wrap up all these fresh vegetables. If it's wrapped in saran wrap, that means you're trying to prevent the moisture from getting out of the wrap. And so
Dan nailed it.
A while ago.
I've got two places within a block or two from here that has amazing Thai food, and even the fast food version of Thai food around here, it's called Green Mango, is excellent. They've got Thai and Vietnamese food, excellent, and they don't wrap it in the way they do what Dan says. They just wrap it in the rice paper.
To their defense, on some level, I guess, because it's takeout. But when I used to go to the private one here, he never did that. He put them in little styrofoam things, and you just open them and they were laying there.
Yeah.
But the problem with this is you're trying to get the saran wrap off. The rice paper, the rice wrapping is all
it comes
falling apart.
Yeah.
It was weird.
You know what I like? I like that. I don't even know. It's the little sauce that usually comes with those wraps. It's kind of like
a vinegar sweet sauce.
It's like a vinegar sweet sauce. God damn, you're bang on, Dan Duran.
They also had these, when you go to pizza places now, and the dipping sauces, they come in those little containers.
Yeah.
Well, their peanut sauce was in that, and when I opened it, it was almost like jelly, like the peanut sauce. It was just...
It's no good.
Not good. And again, I get back to what I said and we were discussing. There's people always in a hurry, and they're not that adventurous. They think, let's go there for Thai food. It's like, well, that's not...
I read this in the...
that's not the ticket.
In the Michelin Guide, I read this in the Michelin Guide that says most restaurants that have the word express in it aren't being considered for a Michelin star.
No.
I think it's interesting that Dan Duran knows more about Thai food than his fucking prostate. Bringing it back, never going away.
I know how to send it down there. I know how to send it down, but I don't know what's going on.
My story isn't going to be anywhere near that in-depth. Great story. Well, my story, as often happens with you and I, you had a return on Saturday, and I had a return of something yesterday. And I'll be brief, because the actual return experience was great. I will say this, because oftentimes on this program we do complain, and we can be negative, but in this particular case, it was such a positive experience. My girls, Charles and Spencer, bought me for Christmas. They asked me what I wanted. I said, well, I need new golf shoes. So they got together and they got a bunch of Golf Town gift cards for me that would easily cover the costs of golf shoes. So before I went to North Carolina on the 3rd of April, I went to Golf Town and I bought some new golf shoes. And then a week or so later, I went away and I wore them 4 rounds of golf in North Carolina and 2 rounds that I played here in Ontario. And I don't know if the woman was in a hurry the day she fit me, but it seemed like they fit me in the store, and then they've just hurt the back of both of my ankles. Sometimes you'll get shoes, and it takes a week or so, and they'll break in.
Yeah.
But these just got worse to the point where Saturday I played and I left the course and I was in pain. Like I had blisters on both of the backs of my feet. So I went and looked. I kept the receipt. And I went online to check out Golf Town's return policy. And online it says 30 days. And yesterday was the 5th of May. Cinco de Mayo. And I thought, shit, I'm 2 days late to return these shoes. I was literally looking online to go to a cobbler. It was funny to look up cobblers on the internet. Are there cobblers? Yeah, apparently there still are, where they can stretch your shoes. Anyway, this isn't the part of the story I wanted to get to. I called the manager and he said, yeah, no problem. Bring them in. I'm like, really? He said, yeah. Let's check the warranty on him. He said, yeah. I'm like, you're 2 days late. He said, no problem. And I'm like, you know what? Isn't that lovely? Isn't that a great story? I brought them back to Golf Town and they gave me a refund. No problem.
Fantastic. That's good business.
That is good business. And they didn't give me you're 2 days away. It was and I was prepared for that. I was prepared to call in the Dan. I was going to call the Danvillery.
Right.
I was going to say, if you guys don't give me a refund, I'll sick Dan fucking Duran on you.
Right. For the sake of 2 days.
Exactly.
That's good business.
If you don't give me a refund, I'm calling wank.com and their president, Dan Duran, to get on this.
And on the flip side of that, I'm sure I told the story on the show where I had those sandals, like Birkenstock sandals, like croc-looking ones, not traditional Birkenstocks. And it started to rip a bit, so I went to a store over here at the Bramalea City Center. And the girl said to me, oh, no, nothing we can do about that. I said, why? And she said, well, you've obviously left them in the sun too long. And these were like pool sandals. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You left them and I said to her, and there was people standing behind me and they heard that. And I said, left them in the sun too long? They're sun shoes, for Christ's sake. What are you talking about? Well, no, you can't, anything in the sun too long is, break down. I said, but these are made for that. And she just came out with that because she was in a pissy mood or something. And I said, even the people behind me were looking at me laughing. And she wouldn't refund them. So then I came home, got a hold of Birkenstocks, and I end up with 2 pair. But that's...
Well, that's you know what? That's a nice little good news sidebar. But the reason I told you that story is not because of the refund. So I go there yesterday. Mm-hmm. The guy couldn't have been nicer. Everyone couldn't have been nicer. Took my old shoes. It had been worn now. They've been worn 6 times. Mm-hmm. And I cleaned them up the best I could. So, I don't know what they do to them, but I had the receipt. I gave them back and everything was fine. And he said, now just go to go and pick out some new shoes. I'm like, all right. And there was a woman there. This is the part of the story I wanted to tell you. Oh. There was a woman there. This was the reason I wanted that other part was just fine. It's all good. Everything was great. Couldn't have been nicer.
Right.
So there's a younger woman, but she's not so young, probably late 30s, early 40s, and she's helping me. And she's great. Very attractive, and we're having kind of I don't know. I've been around. I know when people are responding to whatever meager charms I have, and she was giggling a little bit, and I was joking about this and that, and I was getting kind of a nice vibe from her, and she, again, younger but not way too young. Probably, if she was, certainly age appropriate, I don't know. So it was going kind of nicely, and it seemed like she was going out of her way to help me. And here's the thing, so I'm trying on different shoes. You see, I have a Band-Aid on my finger.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
So I'm trying on all these shoes. At the same time, there's some kind of like little fun little, back and forth going on with her and I. And then I look down and Dan, you'll relate to this. I'm just bleeding for no reason.
Oh no.
And it's a little cut on the side of my finger. And I start doing this, like I'm trying to get it to stop, but it's right on the surface of my finger, so it's fucking, it's bleeding a lot, and I'm trying to I don't know what to do, because now this fun little charming back and forth, I'm like I'm some fucking old guy, and I think what it was is when I was tying one of the shoes, I maybe the eye of the shoe, I don't know what it was. But I had to say to her, excuse me, I know it's awkward, but I'm bleeding. She sort of looked at me like,
funny.
What? I said, yeah, I don't want to try any more of these. They're all white shoes, right? I said, I don't want to try on any more white shoes. She goes, oh, no worries. And then she goes and gets me a Band-Aid. So all is great.
Took you off your game there for a little while.
But it was a kind of a weird moment, but she was very sweet about it. And it would be fun if that was when the story ended. But so she goes and gets me a Band-Aid, brings it back. I put it on. She even takes it out of the Band-Aid thing for me. It's very sweet. And everything's calmed down. She goes and gets me another pair of shoes, and I did it again. I was pulling too hard on the thing. And another fucking finger starts to bleed. Not as much as the first one, but now I've got fucking another. And now I can't say anything. Now I'm just some old man that it fucking wrecked everything. Now I'm just some old dude that just bleeds spontaneously. Fuck me. So that was it.
When I get excited.
That's right.
Yeah.
I want to fucking. What do they call those people that hemophobics? No. What is it when you? What is that thing? When you
Hemophiliac.
Hemophiliac. I'm just some old fucking geezer that just can't stop bleeding. Anyway, it wrecked the whole thing, and I thanked her for her time, and off I went. Because I couldn't ask for another Band-Aid. I was like, "Oh, these will be fine," before I bleed all over the laces.
Anyway, did you end up with nice new shoes?
I did actually.
Yeah.
Have you taken them out for a spin yet?
No, I just got them yesterday. I walked on Saturday, and by the fifth or sixth hole, it was fucking excruciating.
Yeah.
I couldn't. They shouldn't be that. Either they were the wrong size, which I have a feeling they might have been, but they were just too hard in the back, and it was painful walking. And I got home, and of course, I've got giant blisters on the back of my heels, along with the fact that I can't stop bleeding.
You had somebody that outfitted you.
I do for like shirts.
Oh, okay. Not shoes. Okay.
In years gone by, I had shoes. I had a shoe deal, but I don't anymore. Anyway.
And if I may, the point I would like to make through this is what we got on Saturday for $60, I would say prior to COVID, and I know that's 4 years ago and time flies, and it would have been a lot less. And as everyone knows, since COVID, a lot of things has just exploded in price, and it's just the way it is. What are you going to do about it? But what that has done, I think, is open the door. If you're not satisfied with what we're paying for stuff now, if you're not satisfied, you got to complain. You do. Because, some of it's genuine, some of it's disingenuous. A lot of the price hikes, food and stuff. So you're not happy for what you pay. You let them know. You tell them. That's my philosophy.
Yeah, I mean, well, they're certainly set up now. As I mentioned, they can't afford for people because we're so much more review oriented.
Yes.
Like, you were one of the first people not everyone does it now, I think, but I remember I used to kid you. He'd say, before I go to a restaurant, I look at their menu.
Yes.
But I think what a lot of people do, because I find myself doing that more and more as well. Mm-hmm. Part of it is for price. You're like, okay, do I really want to spend this much? But also now, because of that habit that I think a lot of people get into, because they're looking for the reviews. Mm-hmm. They're looking to see what other people.
Although part of it with me, it adds to the excitement because, sometimes you're in your restaurant when you see the menu and it's like, oh, would you like to order now? Sometimes it's like, I'm not quite sure what I want. But okay, I'll have this. When I look at the menu before I go, I have a pretty good idea of what I want, and I can start looking forward to it. Oh boy, I'm having rack of lamb. Ooh boy, with that salad. Oh, fantastic.
Oh yeah, what else? Could it be maybe something else?
Oh, maybe.
I have to be careful. If I don't want to get too excited, I just spontaneously bleed. All right, Dan Duran will come back and do some news. Just to review, nuts and bolts are the same as bits and bytes. Dan doesn't know the difference between his prostate and his colon. And I can't stop bleeding, apparently. And Thai food or Thai Express, have a look at it. Maybe that's all you got in your neighborhood. Again, not disparaging them. If they wanted to be a sponsor, we'd load up on all that yummy food.
Just one franchise, right?
Exactly.
You could go to another one. It might be great. I don't know.
In the meantime,
I'll never know.
Yeah, exactly. But for $20 more, you might have been. Let's talk about some people that do a great business for other people. Friedrich.
The Chambers of Commerce Group Insurance Plan, Canada's #1 group benefits plan for small business. We've told you about the Chamber Plan. We've been telling you about the Chamber Plan for years now. And if you have a small business, it remains the way to go. 32,000 Canadian businesses are part of this. They've been around for 40 plus years. It works for small business, a non-profit. Do a great job on holding the line of premiums year to year. Very important for small business, of course. We're talking dental and prescriptions and therapies, and they have an HR component that you could tap into if you need some advice that way. The Teladoc system, fantastic. Seriously, if you need a certain kind of specialist, they'll hook you up. Oh, yeah, they will. It really works from top to bottom at the price you pay for a small business. Your employees will love you for it, so give it a shot. The Chambers of Commerce Group Insurance Plan, chamberplan.ca.
In the news, April employment data from Stats Canada will arrive on Friday. Forecasters in this world are expecting to see an unemployment rate tick up slightly, and markets are now pricing in around 80% chance of the Bank of Canada cutting interest rates in June after a weaker than expected jobs report in the U.S. last week. Why do I bring this up? Have any idea? Well, obviously because people who are taking stock of this, keeping track of it, are people who are maybe renegotiating their mortgage. And trying to negotiate this world is hard to do on your own, especially if you're the kind of person like most of us who just want to go to our bank and get a new mortgage and be done with it. But how about talking to Mike Kazarian from Lenders Choice Mortgages, member of the Mortgage Alliance, license 13582. Why you'd want to do this now is especially important because what's going to happen with these bank rates is volatile, and what you need is somebody that can be an advocate for you. They'll talk to more than 75 different lenders. They'll shop around and make sure you get the mortgage that makes the most sense for you. They'll find a solution, as they say, for all your mortgage financing needs. Mike at lenderschoice.ca. Or go right to their site, lenderschoice.ca, and find out how they can make more sense for you. But count on. I mentioned I watched some of the. What happened? You okay? It's like you just barked at me.
Mm-hmm. Excuse me.
So I keep forgetting you can't reach your kill switch.
No, I can, but I half flicked it there when I had a quick cough come upon me. Sorry about that.
That's all right. I watched some of the, pretty good amount of it, actually, about an hour of the Netflix live. Netflix is doing a lot of live programming. This weekend, there was lots of stuff live. John Mulaney had kind of a talk show, a 6-part series. Everybody's in L.A. or something like that. I watched that live. There's a bit of a shift in this world that we're in. The streaming world they're more than dipping their toe into live programming. They had a live stand-up concert with a guy named Cat Williams, who you don't know, but he's huge. And then on Sunday night, they had the world's greatest roast, they called it. Kevin Hart hosted this thing last night. Very, very good. Like a big time, whatever they call the forum down in L.A. It was huge, packed 20,000 people for the roast of Tom Brady. And it was quite something. I could name some of the football players. You'd know them better than me, Gronk and all those guys he played with.
Right. It went on for 3 hours, though, I think.
Yeah.
Is that true? Yeah.
Yeah, it was a long broadcast. I watched about an hour of it. And some of the comedians, the classic roast guys, Jeff Ross, some of the other big comics, again, guys that are big in the stand-up world that maybe not household names. Tom Segura, Bert Kreischer, whatever, the guy who does stand-up with his shirt off. And Will Ferrell came out as Ron Burgundy. But you know what got the biggest, from what I saw, the biggest cheer, or the biggest sort of like, oh my God, moment of the night?
Belichick?
Fucking Burgundy.
Yeah.
Burgundy, or Will Ferrell as Ron Burgundy, finishes up his bit and then says to him something like, "You know, Tom, you're only my second favorite Patriot. My first is Bill Belichick," and the place goes crazy.
Yeah. And he was there, right?
Yeah. It was great. I don't, his roast was kind of cute and everything, and he went through the players, and he said a couple pretty racy things, not racist, but racy. Like at one point, he's talking about one of the guys that was on his team, a right tackle, can't remember his name. He said, something like, "I'm so glad he's not near a microphone because the entire time he played for me, all I wanted to do was tell him to shut the fuck up." And I was like, wow. It's pretty cool coming from... and Belichick presented himself. I had no idea what kind of guy he was, but he was great. But you can go back and watch it now if you're interested.
Yeah, I think I'll wait for the highlight package. It'll probably show up on YouTube or something because 3 hours is a long time.
But now that it's recorded, you can just whip through it. Yeah.
You talk about streaming. Apple TV, like Friday night, Doll and I sit down to watch the baseball game. It's not on. And it's like, that's odd. Well, it's on Apple TV. So to see the game Friday night, the Blue Jays, you have to subscribe to Apple TV, which is great for Major League Baseball. They've hooked up with Apple TV, but, to me, it's not fair to the day-to-day fans. And listen, you're not going to change it. It's the way it's going, and they don't care. But all of a sudden, a Friday night, you want to watch your team, and you can't because Apple TV has come in with this Friday night baseball thing. And if your team comes up, you're shut out of local television. And again, what you pay in ticket prices and, the devotion you give to the team for all the other games in the season, watching them and, buying their merchandise. To me, it's a little bit of an affront. But that's the way it is, and that's what Apple TV is doing. MLS, like the TFC. The odd game is on TSN, regular television. Most of those games now are Apple TV. You have to subscribe. And I think we've made this point on the show previously. Like, what's it going to look like 10 years from now? As far as streamers go and your access to live events. We thought regular terrestrial television or, over-the-air television, cable television, we thought that was going to be their thing, live events.
Savior of... Yeah, because we've said that. The only network television I watch in a week is yesterday afternoon. I watched the last 3 hours of the golf. That's it.
So if some of these events are moving over to the streaming services, you talked about the NFL doing that as well. NHL is going to dabble in it. 10 years from now, what's it going to look like? What's it going to cost you? It's can I say interesting?
It is interesting. Hang on a second. Interesting. I find it fascinating. The amount of taking a step back from sports, and obviously last night was all about sports with Tom Brady and.
Yes.
And there was I don't know all the story about what's gone on in his personal life, but man, they used to do a lot, and somebody made this point on the podium last night. They used to do a lot more of these roasts. And one of the reasons they went away was, people being overly sensitive. Because I'll tell you, some of the things that were said last night were hilarious, but way, way over the line from what you would sort of see in everyday comedy these days. And there was a lot of people on that thing that, again, people that I know that are household names in the world of stand-up. Nikki Glazer, Tony, what's his name? Fuck. He's really funny. Anyway, it doesn't matter. The point is, they brought this back for Brady, and I was kind of curious to watch it just because of that. I wanted to see, so what does a modern 2024 roast look like? And man, they went after him. his wife, they were talking about leaving his wife. One of the guys had a line about he left Boston, he left his wife and 2 sons to go be like 8 and 9 in fucking
I saw that
in Florida. It was crazy the shit they were saying to him.
Yeah, Giselle said, "Retire or I'll leave you." And an 8-9 season, that was worth losing your wife and kids over.
Yeah, it was great. So
yeah.
So I think you'd like it. But I think that I was thinking of you while I was watching it because some of the references I didn't really get. I mean, I understood them, but I didn't really know what the story inside the game was.
Did they use swear words? Because it was streamed?
Yeah, as I was saying, Belichick told the guy to shut the fuck up. There was a story.
So literally.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I guess it would be on the streaming service.
And there's the whole Drew Bledsoe, how he was taken first, but there was a whole bunch of stuff that I sort of didn't really get, but I kind of understood. Like I'm, you know what I mean? Like there were some football stories I think you'd really enjoy.
Oh, I bet I would.
So the point about the streaming, though, is there was so much streaming or live. I think Netflix is really pushing that now.
Yeah, What is the strategy? And because you just wonder. I mean, although there was a time Netflix was just. Remember, we used to do the math, and it was like, this is just staggering. But then other services come along and everything's fragmented, and then next thing you hear, they're hurting a bit as far as income goes, and whatever the actual story is as we sit. But is this the strategy now? We got to go into live streaming if we're going to get back to the revenue that we had before. What else could it be? And are they going to climb over each other to get the best product? Be it NFL, would be the top, and then baseball or whatever.
Well, I'll tell you, every spring now for the last few years in Los Angeles, Netflix has done a comedy festival that's replaced. Well, I mean, JFL is no more, but for a few years now, it has become the festival. It's called Netflix is a Joke Comedy Festival, and Letterman's there, and Kevin Hart, and all the biggest comics, Chappelle, everybody's in town. And so what Netflix has done is taken advantage, pardon me, of all the guys that they have on their roster, which is everybody. Seinfeld, everyone was there, and they've been doing these big shows, these big arena shows, and this was one of the reasons that they did the Brady roast.
Yeah. Speaking of Seinfeld, there's another, I'm not into like movies and directors and producers and, the way you are. Movies come out now and I'm at a loss. Not that it really matters because I don't go to theaters either. Is it in the theater? Is this a streaming movie, or, is it debuting on Netflix, or do you have to see it at the movie first and all that stuff? Again, it's just over there for me. I don't really care at the end of the day, but I'm reading all this stuff. Jerry Seinfeld, all of it, he's everywhere over the past couple of weeks. You notice that? Like, just everywhere.
Oh, no, I know.
He's doing podcasts. He's doing late night TV. He's doing everything to promote this movie Unfrosted, which is a Netflix exclusive. So Friday night, I think it debuted Friday night. So I sat down, had nothing to do because the Jays game wasn't on. And I started watching it. Now, I fell asleep halfway through it, but that's not fair because I really enjoyed what I saw. I really did.
Well, going back, because I brought this up with you last week when I said going home on the Gardner one night, I saw the billboard for it as though it were a movie coming out in theaters.
Yeah.
I also wrote down Seinfeld was everywhere last week, and I've got a few clips of some of the stuff. Later, if we have time, he told a great story. If you're a fan of the Seinfeld show, it's a great story about a sports-related moment. But I watched a bunch of stuff that Jerry was on last week.
Yeah.
Because of this movie.
Yeah, last night when I went to bed, I listened to Club Random, Bill Maher's podcast, and Jerry was on. And it was great. I really enjoyed it.
Well, another one I thought you would really like, sorry to interrupt, was Rich Eisen, who you know from ESPN.
I saw clips of that one. Yeah.
But there's a 45-minute version of it that I listened to. And, it really, there's a couple, actually, I found one, I think I sent it to you. I sent you one of the other appearances he was on, where he explains how he came to be how he is. Because we'd been talking about Seinfeld and seems a little bit arrogant, blah, blah, blah. But the one that I sent you is he's talking to a comedian named Neil Brennan, who he was one of the co-creators of Dave Chappelle's TV show. And he's a stand-up comic. And the two of them are talking about, the neurosis of what makes comedians. And Seinfeld is very articulate about it. Anyway, so you enjoyed the first half of that movie that you saw?
Yeah, I love stuff of that era. It's what is it, 50s? 60s?
63,
yeah,
in the early 60s.
Yeah, and it's fun. It's a fun little movie and very relatable and a lot of messages within. And that's only the first half I saw. I'm going to watch the second half if I can today. As I say, you know what it's like on a Friday night. You just lay the wrong way or lean the wrong way and you're asleep because I'm an old man. But I enjoyed what I saw.
Well, Dave and I, best friend Dave, we had made a point. I said, listen, that Seinfeld thing comes out, because we like to go to movies together, and there was nothing in the theater. I said, well, what about come on over, we'll grab a pizza and watch Unfrosted. Dave, who is typically high as a monkey, and, he fucking laughed his head off, like all the way through. For Dave, there were some very laugh out loud moments. For the How Man, who's more subdued, as you know, I'm like you. It takes a lot for me in my living room to laugh out loud. Like, it really does.
So you saw the whole thing?
I saw the whole thing.
Yeah.
And what I said is what you said. I found it thoroughly enjoyable all the way through. It didn't make me, and I said to Dave after, he goes, oh, I thought that was hilarious. I go, well, I did too, but sometimes I just go, oh, that's funny.
Yeah, I never got hilarious out of it. I got amusing, very amusing.
Exactly.
That's what I got.
But what you said too, there are some great moments in the latter half of that film that are very, I won't ruin it for you, that are very sort of taken from the headlines, and it's very well done. I love all the cameos from like 20 of my, stand-up comics galore, and Jim Gaffigan and Amy Schumer and all those people, and Seinfeld.
And that one story I read where Seinfeld's putting that together, Hugh Grant finds out about it and actually gets a hold of Jerry and says, oh, I want to be in your movie.
Well, no,
the
story was that Seinfeld cast him, but then Hugh Grant sent Jerry a videotape of him in the character. And the story got around that's how he auditioned. He didn't. He had already gotten it, but he wanted Jerry to know what he was thinking of as far as his character goes. But I thought he was great in it.
Sure he was, yeah. Tony the Tiger.
Yeah, the all the references from the 60s and all the way it was, they just the whole time period was great, and
that's what I love.
Yeah, me too. I knew you would.
Brings back a lot of memories. It certainly does, especially the references to all the cereals and stuff. It was pretty cool. What I saw.
Let's so that was some fun. Before we get to our next subject, which is going to be probably a few minutes of talking about the Toronto Maple Leafs, why don't we take a second and talk about something a little more pleasant, like this?
Well, the hockey theme. There was a time when the Maple Leafs put this core four together that I wanted them to be the next Canadian team to win the Stanley Cup. I thought, I don't want anybody else in Canada. I want it to be the Leafs. Well, now I don't care. That's off the table. And looking at the odds this morning, now that we're into the NHL quarterfinals, the Edmonton Oilers, the favorite team to win the Stanley Cup at plus 375, Florida second at plus 450, and then the Dallas Stars plus 500, who got rid of the Vegas Golden Knights last night, which is fine by me. Not a big fan of the Knights. Vancouver, the longest shot in the quarterfinals, plus 1,800, the Vancouver Canucks. And I get these numbers from Bodog. Whether you're a sports bettor, a horse racing fan, a poker, casino player, Bodog, your number one source of online gambling entertainment, from their industry-leading odds, world-class sportsbook, to their fully loaded casino and racebook. They've been providing Canadian players with an unparalleled gaming experience since 1994. That is Bodog.
What is boron? Go to boron1.com. Find out all about this wonder mineral. We've been talking a lot lately about how the company is doing, and it's really something. If you go to boron1.com and read some of the latest news, just to remind you that it's difficult to comprehend, actually, the variety, but try it if you can. It's difficult to comprehend the variety of uses of boron in construction, manufacturing, medicine, science, microelectronics, pharmaceuticals, telecommunications, space travel, and so much more. That's why you might want to keep an eye on this company. We make no claims about stock prices, what they may or may not do, but they support us, and we'd like you to at least check them out if you want to support our program. Have a look. Go to the news section of boron1.com. Boron1.com. Yeah. Some good news for Canadian sports fans. A Canadian golfer, Taylor Pendrith, who's from Richmond Hill, Ontario, won his first PGA Tour event. He's 5 years ago. I think he won on the Canadian Tour. And now he's one of a bunch of Canadians. Probably in my recent memory, there are more Canadians right now. Mackenzie Hughes from this area, Corey Connors from Listowel, Adam Hadwin, born in Moose Jaw, Nick Taylor won the Canadian Open last year, and now Taylor Pendrith. Those 5 players have combined for a bunch of wins the last 2 or 3 years. And so, yesterday was fun watching a Canadian win a tournament. Other than that, there was no reason to watch it. Other than this was Sunday afternoon, I like to watch the golf. But he was very exciting, and he won.
I wish I'd have been aware of that down the stretch to watch that happen. I would have enjoyed that. But as I say, prior today, I'd never even heard of the guy. And now he's and what does that do for him, Howard? What does that do for him?
Gets a 2-year exemption. It gets him a bunch of points on the season-long race for the playoffs. I think 1 point. It's not a big event, so I'm going to say 1.3-ish million.
So it gets him new shoes, is what you're saying.
Yeah, yeah. He's not worrying about taking his the ones that don't fit. He just throws them out.
Mm-hmm.
And and it's just good overall. I think it gets him some points on the to maybe make the President's Cup, which is going to be played this fall in Canada for only the second time.
So a player of his, I don't want to say level, because obviously he's a great player, of his stature, that's on some levels, that's a huge game changer, isn't it?
Oh, it's life-changing for him.
Yeah.
There's a whole bunch of other stuff that happens to you when you win, in terms of how you get placed in tournaments. Time. There's a whole snowball effect. I wanted to bring up the good first because that was very exciting and a nice win for Canada. Nice win for Toronto. Kids from Richmond Hill.
Sure.
And I thought I'd throw that out first as a segue into yet another heartbreaking playoff loss. Let me just set this up for you by telling you the following teams have never played a game in the month of June in the NHL. Seattle Kraken, the Minnesota Wild, the Columbus Blue Jackets, the Arizona Coyotes, and you know who, have never played a game in the month of June. Because I guess in those days, when they only had the original 6 teams, their playoffs were over now, probably.
Well, last week, May 2nd, was the anniversary of the Leafs' last Stanley Cup victory. It was May 2nd, the night that they beat Montreal, I believe, in Game 6 to win the Stanley Cup. That's how quickly it was over back in the day, because there was semifinals and finals. That was it. But now, yeah, it's what can you say? I was surprised they won Game 6 because they were ripe to lose that one because it was at home, and they usually lose Game 6s at home, especially when they could clinch. But they won that one, and to their credit. But Saturday night, say what you want, hard-fought battle, took it into overtime. That was a set play, by the way. Did you see the end of it?
No, of course I did.
Yeah. That was a home Rickard advantage there. That defenseman, I forget his name, he just lofted it at the boards. He knew it would come out a certain way, and Pasternak knew, and anyway, the rest is history. But, bottom line is, still, with this core, that salary structure, it's still another first. It's a first round loss. That's all it is at the end of the day. I mean, you can slice it and dice it and analyze it, but 2 years from now or a year from now or whenever from now, it's just another first round loss. That's all it is for this team. And it's just not acceptable. So
I don't totally disagree, but I don't totally agree. Again, not having the perspective that you have. They've coughed it up. I do remember them losing Game 7 to Boston by playing shitty in the third period. But I would say, having watched a little bit of the game they won in overtime and the last couple of games, to my, less than your trained eye, but still, I've watched enough hockey in my life to know that was a pretty good game. And they play, you can't argue that was, yes, it'll go down as another first round loss, but they played pretty nicely to get there, and I thought they played great, but for that one play, but for whatever, who is it? Marner was out of position.
Where?
On the overtime goal, whoever let.
And he got in behind Morgan Riley.
That's it.
Yeah.
It was. I thought even the superstar, they all played pretty well.
Yeah, but here's the problem.
What's the problem?
Well, number one, it's another first round loss. Number two, Howard, they didn't show up for games 1 and 4. They were absolutely horrible. And it wasn't that Boston was great, because Boston wasn't that great in this series. They didn't show up for 2 games in the playoffs. It was ridiculous. You can't. All the good teams, the teams that advance, they don't take nights off. I don't know what's going to take for this team to stop doing that.
I'll give you that. No, you're absolutely right. They didn't play a great series, but they played. I'm just saying in a vacuum or whatever. If you just take those last couple of games, agreeing that they sort of shit the bed in a couple of them, but it's just too bad because they played very, very well the last couple of games and ultimately fucking lost.
But it's just not good enough to
I know.
play the last. It's just not. It's not what you have to do. You know what they say? It's the hardest trophy in sport to win. And I totally get that. And even the Leafs' inability to score goals in that horrific, lousy power play they have now. Mm-hmm. I mean, you scroll through the scores. NHL playoff hockey, all the last night, Dallas eliminated Vegas. It was 2-1. There was a couple of 1-0 games in other series. You can't do what they do. You got to be ready to go for right out of the hop. And again, we're talking now 7 or 8 years of this same team. Mm-hmm. And if you look at other teams that have got good young players, they ascend. 1 year they win the first round. Then maybe the next year they win 2 rounds. And then the next year they get to the third round. None of that is happening with the Toronto Maple Leafs. 7 of the last 8 years, they're gone in the first round. Just not good enough. Something has to change.
No, for sure.
You can't keep doing the same thing.
And so, having said all that, again,
yes,
commenting on that game, and then, again, it's just too bad that it works out that way.
Yes,
and it was a pretty good goal too. That was a nice goal he scored.
Well, as I said, that's you can. I bet you, if you go back in time and watch the Bruins practices, it's like, okay, they know that point on the board. If you shoot it right at that area, chances are it's going to rebound out towards the net.
For sure, but still, he has to go from his forehand to his backhand or whatever, and it was a good little goal. Unfortunately, But yeah, you're right. You make a good point. You know, those 2 games where they kind of sucked. So now, having said all that, here we are again. It's the 6th of May. They're not in the playoffs. They've got some decisions to make, and I wanted to ask you, what do you think is going to happen in the short and midterm? Because I know they're saddled with those salaries. Just before you answer, too, I'll tell you who has impressed me again is that fucking kid, that Domi kid. Man. You know, I watched him again on Saturday night. Like, the puck sticks to him.
Yeah. And he may not be here next year because of their salary structure, which is sad. Here's another point I will make. What needs to be done? Well, I think what we saw provides that answer to some level. That hockey teams, it's not so much about the individual. Well, a lot of team sports, because that's the word team. It's the team, the culture, the attitude. Isn't it odd that they're shitting the bed? Austin Matthews misses games 5 and 6 and they win. Think about that. The game's greatest goal scorer misses 2 games. They win those 2 games after playing shitty. So what does that tell you? It tells you without him on the bench, the rest of the team goes, hey, Austin's not here. We have to pick it up a bit. Maybe we have to do some things we haven't done before or we haven't been doing in this series. And all of a sudden they win 2 games. They play those games and you go, wow, that's pretty remarkable. There's a team I could learn to like. That's what.
So
that
how do you
was my
explain
takeaway.
that? Yeah, no, I heard you say that. How do you explain
I think that's because he's gone, and it's like, okay, Austin's not here. I guess the rest of us have got to pick it up, which is a bad attitude to begin with, especially in the playoffs, because you should always be there. Yeah. And then Austin Matthews comes back for Game 7, and they lose. Hard-fought battle, I get it and everything, but again, they lost. And it's like, so what are we going to do here? That tells me that this team has a real character issue, and they may have to shed some of the big contracts and go out and get more character players, more guys like Domi or Bertuzzi or this Matthew Nyes kid. Or Matthew Nyes, like, there's a hockey player in the playoffs.
And this Nylander is a pretty impressive player as well.
Well, he's been their best playoff performer since they put this core 4 together.
Here's what I would tell you that I've observed, because I don't watch any of the regular season games. I only get it through osmosis, through you and other guys I know that follow them. I can tell you, they are not built for this type of hockey.
No.
They can play it once they're forced to, but they are not built for this. No. They're built for, 5-1 games and 6-2 games. And, I'm not sure if you made the point or one of the guys in the broadcast made the point where somebody said that you can't play like this for 82 games. No. But you need to be able to play like this when it's time to.
Yes.
And that's why when I hear you talk about them, when we're talking about Bodog odds and how many games, and he's made one, he scored 69 or 70 goals. That's all great until you're in a bunch of 0-0 games and 1-0 games.
Yes. Yes.
Because that takes a different kind of player. That takes a player like this. Like, again, I've only watched him through now 3 games, but that kid Domi is relentless. Same with Nyes. Same with Nylander. They're relentless. I really didn't notice Marner very much.
No. And I think with Marner, I think they may go to him. He has a no trade, but I think, on the front page of the Sun last week, he was the full page. And I think his face was missing, and it said the invisible leaf.
Yeah.
Well, in this market, once they start to pick on you, you're done. So I think if they went to Marner and said, "What do you think about moving on?" He might give them a list of teams. Because if I'm Mitch Marner too, the criticism I've taken, and he can't seem to take it very well, maybe you want to move on. Maybe you want to play in Los Angeles or somewhere in Florida and, go to the local 7-Eleven and have nobody recognize you. And maybe that's what he wants.
This is a tough, we've said this for years, and I know enough about the game. This is a tough place to play hockey. You know who else, by the way, and I've come around to your way of thinking on this because I noticed it, who's just not very good anymore. Maybe he was once.
Yeah.
But fucking Tavares. Like, you want to talk about absent
Yes.
Like all the guys that I just named and a few others, guys whose names I don't really know. There's a couple guys with European names or Sweden. I couldn't tell it, but they were very good. But Tavares, you got to do something. You got to do something.
He's got one more year at $11 million. I know it's an anchor. It is. And, it goes back to when they signed him. Go through the NHL and try and find teams that had a notable captain leave a franchise for another one. You don't see it happen very often. And what that told me was the Islanders had a price and they thought, you know what? If he can get better than this in Toronto, just let him go because it'll free up this money for us. And, and the Islanders actually became a better team when he left. They did. And that tells me that the Islanders, a franchise that traditionally has character players, even this year, they made the playoffs. They weren't expected to.
Yeah. And it bugs me to say that about Tavares because I know somebody who is very close with the Tavares family.
Yes.
And just says he's literally one of the nicest people, which is great. That he's a good guy, that he's a really stand-up fellow. And I say that about how bad I think he played. But it's not even so much bad. It's ineffective.
Yes.
And there's too many of those guys. Like I said, I barely noticed Marner. Tavares is ineffective. Matthews had was part of that goal. I thought as soon as they scored, and then Boston scored right away, I thought of you. Like, why does that have to happen?
It happens all the time.
But why? Like and they're playing so good to that point.
I don't know.
How
do you go through that far of the game without allowing a goal? Then you score one.
Yeah.
And then within a minute and 14 seconds, you give it back. I don't know, Howard.
Especially the kind of hockey they were playing. The kind of hockey that was being played was super defensive and very, very buttoned down and like really, really. I thought they played great, and then that happened, and I was like, oh fuck! I'm not the fan you are, but I'm enough of an observer of it / bandwagon jumper to go, oh god, you got to be kidding me.
Well, part of that is, their goalie, Swayman, who the Maple Leafs had the chance to draft and didn't. They were apparently going to draft that goalie, Swayman. This was 2017. They had talked to him. He fully expected the Leafs to draft him. And then when it came time for the Leafs pick, they picked a goaltender, a different one named Ian Scott, who I don't believe ever played a game in the NHL. And they let Swayman go the next pick to the Boston Bruins. I mean, those stories are just so plentiful, so bountiful. It's like, it's something. Even look at Joseph Woll. I couldn't believe it. So you get up Saturday morning and Joseph Woll's not playing because he got injured.
No, I know.
During the last second of Game 6. Now, this is a kid.
Not even a second. The last 0.01 second or some shit.
But this kid's a problem, too, because he's injured. He's a China doll. Am I allowed to say that?
I don't know.
But he's just, the kid always gets injured. It's it's crazy. Anyway, it's just the whole thing is frustrating. And I don't know what they can do because they've tried. I really believe Brendan Shanahan's going to get the exit within the next week or so. Sheldon Keefe will probably get it because sometimes you have to answer, why isn't this club ready? Why wasn't this club ready to play in games 1 and 4?
Well, let's finish it by saying, because that was a question I asked you like 10 minutes ago. In the short term, Shanahan, Keefe, maybe one of the top 4.
But the problem with the top 4 is who wants to pay Mitch Marner $10 million a season? So here's the thing. If you want to get rid of that contract, chances are you're going to have to eat some of it. So Mitch Marner might be playing somewhere next year for $6 million. That team will pay him $6 million, and the Leafs will still be paying him $4 or something.
Yeah, it'll be part of the cap. Yeah, I get it. No, I get it.
And to take him, the Leafs may have to give them something to take him. So the whole idea of that transaction will be to free up cap space, not to get assets or not to get a draft choice. Or it's how they've backed themselves into a corner is just frightening.
Well, there you go. There's a lot of it. And unfortunately, because I was really, this sounds crazy, but I was really looking forward to watching more games because now I'm going to be watching 0 games of hockey.
Yeah.
I have, unless, here's what I would say, because I love my brother Steve, if Edmonton were to get to the finals, I would have to, out of solidarity for my Alberta family, I would have to watch. Now, are you?
No, I'm the same way. I think what hockey I watch, it will be following the Edmonton Oilers, who I think will handle Vancouver and move on. So, one thing we know, Howie, it's Edmonton and Vancouver in this round, so there will be a Canadian team in the next round in the semifinals.
That's very good.
Yeah.
How about a little break here now for you and I? I loved the Seinfeld series. I'm not one of those guys. Like, I have a couple friends of mine that can quote storylines and they buzzwords and, not that there's anything wrong with that and all that stuff, but they can do it, times a million. But one of the many, many appearances of Jerry last week promoting this movie, Unfrosted. I believe this is from the Rich Eisen show. Eisen used to be an ESPN guy. Very good. And Seinfeld, if you watch the whole thing, Seinfeld loves Rich Eisen because Seinfeld's a huge sports fan. Baseball, I think, is his big game, but also likes basketball.
Yes.
So, but I do remember this story. Do you remember the when George was pretending to be a marine biologist?
Yes.
At the same time, Kramer was doing something, hitting golf balls into the ocean.
Yes.
So of all the many appearances, Seinfeld, this is titled Never Before Told Seinfeld Story. Dan, did you ever watch this Jerry Seinfeld show?
The Seinfeld show, the series sitcom that ran for 9 years?
Yeah, that one.
Yeah.
Okay.
I picked up an episode or two here and there, yeah.
Okay. I'm just because I don't know with you. I know you don't watch, I don't know if it's not on CBC, it doesn't come into your home. Dan was during Seinfeld. Dan was watching reruns of King of Kensington. Anyway, this is a story that's never been told before about this particular episode that's pretty famous. Where George, it's at the end of the episode, and George has been pretending to be a marine biologist. Here's Jerry telling this story.
When Kramer is hitting golf balls at the beach and George is dating this girl pretending to be a marine biologist and walking on the beach and then saves a whale on the beach.
Is anyone here a marine biologist?
Save the whale, George. For me.
Let's say we're shooting it on Wednesday. It's Tuesday. We don't have the golf ball goes into the blowhole of the whale. It was never in the script. It was the night before. I said to Larry, hey, what if what puts the whale in distress is Kramer's golf ball? He's hitting golf balls at the beach. George is walking on the beach with the girl. We haven't connected them. We write that speech the night before, 2 o'clock in the morning.
But the sea was angry?
The sea was angry that day, my friend.
The sea was angry that day, my friends. Like an old man trying to send back soup in a deli.
We show up the next day. We hand Jason that speech. This is TV, okay? This is why film sucks. You walk up to a TV actor like Jason and you hand him 2.5 pages and I go, we got to shoot this in a half hour. Memorize it. He goes, no problem. I got a nugget for you.
Please.
When Jason is doing the speech, there's one shot, there's one cut to me with my eyes, my eyebrows. I'm watching him. You think I'm reacting to the story. I'm reacting. I can't believe he's getting this speech word perfect. I'm not acting. Wow. I'm just watching Jason get the speech right in front of a live audience. Right. Okay? It's not film.
The ultimate is the cherry on top of Kramer saying, is it a Titleist? As if it could be someone else's golf ball that got put into the blowhole.
What is that, a Titleist?
Anyway, I thought that was kind of a cool little behind-the-scenes story. And then Seinfeld goes on to say that the day they shot it, they had to call the golf company Titleist to make sure that it was okay for them to say that the golf ball that went inside the whale's blowhole was a Titleist. And then he goes on, which I really like. I should have let it play. Seinfeld then goes on to explain to Rich Eisen why it had to be Titleist, because the way it sounds, it's just it's a funnier word than, say, some other brand.
Yeah, Callaway, Nike. I heard that too. I found that to be the most interesting part of that whole clip. And then he explaining how the word Titleist would work in that situation, because again, listening to Bill Maher and Jerry Seinfeld last night on Club Random, they get into crafting a joke and how certain words just in order can make or break a joke. I find that, well, you often talk about that, how interesting. Yes, interesting. How interesting that is. Yes.
Well, and yeah, I mean, I told you that Woody Allen joke last week, and the fact that every word in that joke has to be in that particular order. Mm-hmm. But one of my favorite things about Jerry, and I heard a lot of it last week, I'm going to check out the Bill Maher thing, is because the science of comedy is important to him. It's what still drives him at age 70. He still gets up every day working on bits. Like we talked last week, Dan. He's on tour from now until the end of the year. A couple times a month, sometimes 5 and 6 times a month, going to Australia, all over the States, coming to Rama. What drives him is that when he loves trying to find those moments in things.
He also, him and Maher, he explained, well, Maher said this, and then Jerry backed him up, said, comedy is like playing the cello. You have to keep playing. You can't put it down and forget about it and then just come back and think you can play it. And they were just talking about that, why they keep doing it. And Jerry is absolutely amazed by what Maher does. He does a weekly television show, and then on the weekends, he's out doing clubs or like big venues. And he said, like, how do you do that? And as Maher says, I'm not married and I don't have kids, so my time is mine. But I have to. Like, if I want to keep doing it, I love it. If I want to keep doing it, I got to keep doing it. And then Jerry, of course, backed that up with, why he still does it. He just loves it.
Jay Leno famously, do you know this story, Dan, about Leno, how he never took a dime from all the years he worked on The Tonight Show? He never used any of that money. He just put it away.
I didn't know that, no.
So whatever he was being paid, 15 or 18 million a year for all the years of Tonight Show, the only money he still lived on was every Saturday or Saturday night, just like Seinfeld. He would private jet into some place, do the show, make his $250,000 and go home. 5 nights a week he's doing The Tonight Show. And then, the weekends he's out doing stand-up somewhere, because not for the money, because that's what drives him.
Yeah.
Obviously, he felt that also contributed to his whatever he's doing on the Tonight Show, right?
Yeah, absolutely. But it less about that than more about then more about if you stop doing it, you lose you lose your ability to do it. Like another great way of.
Well, Leno never had kids either, did he?
No.
Yeah, that's a big thing, and they were talking about that. Having kids is a big thing with that lifestyle as far as television and stand-up and traveling, and as you can imagine, it is.
Well, I was listening to a podcast with this other guy, this superstar of stand-up. You guys maybe be aware of his name is Sebastian Maniscalco.
Yes.
This guy's doing arenas every weekend, but now that he's got 2 kids, he talked about that, having to slow down, how... because most of those guys that are doing big arena shows will go to the Comedy Store, the Improv, and do a set 4 or 5 nights a week just to, stay current and work on material. And he was saying it's kind of hard to do when you've got like a 3 and a 5-year-old at home.
One other thing, the show I listened to last night, Maher loves Jerry, and Jerry's 2 years older. And he told a story about in New York, one of the comedy clubs. And Bill Maher had this great respect for Jerry even back then. And then one night, Maher had a whole bunch of new material. And he got up on stage and he used it all. And he said it was pretty flat. He got off stage dejected. And then Jerry just walked over to him and said, new material, you might not want to use it all at once.
That's right. Yeah.
Right? That's all he said to him, and he said that was a turning point for him. Like,
yeah, early on I caught on. I mean, because before you know, you just don't know. You think, okay, I'll just go up and try a bunch of new stuff, and then you realize that after a while you become a veteran of. So if I was going to do a new couple of minutes, I would put it in the middle of stuff I knew that worked.
right.
You would do 3 or 4 minutes of, you're going to get some laughs, but to walk up and just do nothing but new material, and it's like everything sucked. Jerry's very generous, by the way. When I say about in terms of that kind of, listen to the thing I sent you. Jerry talked about how he was never very competitive. Like he was not about his ego. He was all about the craft. And that's why, we were talking last week about him seeming a bit arrogant. In actual fact, as those guys go, he was always very much like, hey, there's plenty of this to go around. I just happen to be the best that there is at it, because nobody worked at it like he did.
One other surprising takeaway from this thing I listened to last night, they both love Johnny Carson.
Yeah.
But he was quite the rip-off artist himself, eh? Like characters and jokes, and they get into that a bit. I was surprised. At what they said.
I had not heard that.
Yeah, well, listen to it.
I will.
Yeah,
I will do that.
I was taken aback. And one other comedy thing I was saying, I don't even know when it was done, but I want to bring some Canadian into this. Letterman's show, my next guest needs no introduction, whatever. Have you seen the Ryan Reynolds one?
I don't know that I have. I've seen a bunch of them. I saw the most recent one with John Mulaney. Why?
Well, I was scrolling through the other. Well, I watched it because I like Ryan Reynolds. And I've never even seen Deadpool. It's all through Wrexham, and then following his career, and everything he touches turns to gold. That aspect of it, it was just very sweet, and just another nice Canadian guy. And Dave goes to his house wherever it is, and he makes some homemade pizza. It's pretty cool.
Well, I will tell you, I'm not sure when Johnny Slapshot will be old enough, but the 2 Deadpool movies, the first 2, are absolutely fucking hilarious.
No, I gotta watch them.
It's not just action; it is action. Have you seen them, Dan?
Oh yeah,
they're really, really well done.
Anytime a movie with him comes out like that, isn't there one with Wolverine?
That's a new one. Wolverine. Yeah, the new one's coming out.
Yeah,
that first one, $58 million was the budget, and it made close to $1 billion or something.
Oh yeah, and yet it's interesting. Is it interesting, Howard?
Interesting.
Breaking the fourth wall.
What's that? Yeah, I love that stuff. Some people don't, but I like it. Ryan Reynolds made most of his money from his investments. And speaking of Wrexham, when is Darren sent me a note? I keep forgetting. I think season 3 of the series is coming out.
Yes.
Even though I know what happened already. Doesn't matter.
Did I mention Wrexham is going playing the Vancouver Whitecaps?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. They're doing a friendly.
See, I wish that was Toronto. Maybe they'll stop over here. That would be fun.
Fred, speaking of friendly...
Now, here's to a fella named Dan Duran, a hell of a guy with a hell of a big wang, the quintessential anchor man. His voice is nice and low.
Dan Duran.
Dan Duran, the anchorman comes. As for credentials, he has none. Can't tell a headline from his bum, but his voice is nice and low. Dan Duran, the anchorman's here. He's prone to falling off his chair, but he's got a big wang, so he don't care, and his voice is nice and low.
My voice is nice and low.
And now live from Lisa's house, of course, Black Sticks in the Bars. Here he is, movie anchorman, TV series regular, and all-around sweet man. Even though you can't tell a prostate from his colon, it's Daniel J. Giebert. Duran.
Okay, we've got a couple events to keep in mind. Coming up is the first Starliner astronaut launch for NASA. That happens today at 10:34. It's kind of a shakedown flight for the new Starliner capsule. It's been made by Boeing. That might make you nervous. Anyway, it's launching at 10:34 tonight, if all goes well, according to the weather. So if you're wanting to keep an eye on the things spacey, that would be it. And by the way, on May 8th, Wednesday at 12:48 a.m. is when they'll be docking with the space station.
Oh, that's good news.
That's good news. Also, the Met Gala is happening tonight, and if you're into watching all the red carpet activities, that starts around 5 p.m. Eastern, and it ends around 8. And if you're looking for a place to see it, I think Vogue is streaming it. I don't know about any of the major channels, but, if you want to see all the stars arrive live.
Help Freddie P. What is the Met Gala? Help Freddie P. with this. I don't know what that is.
The Met Gala is one of the, probably the premier gala of all the galas out there. And people, all the superstars that arrive are wearing crazy costumes.
Yeah.
And
Dan, what will you be wearing?
What is it? Like a charity?
Yes.
What kind of a?
Yeah,
like
it's a huge charity event.
So what happens there? Do people make speeches and stuff, or is it just a party?
I think it's a big party, but the big thing, as Dan says, the big draw is what all these celebrities wear, the outrageous dress and things like that. But beyond that, I'm not it's not an award show. It's at the Metropolitan Museum in New York. That's the Met. Okay. But beyond that, Dan, I don't know what is other than, I guess raising money for charity.
Yeah, well, I think it's raising money for the Met.
Oh, is that okay?
The museum,
The museum.
And it's got a theme and everything as well.
You're going to wear what? You'll be wearing one of your old Anchorman.
Yeah, old Anchorman. I'll be coming as a 7 Anchorman at once. Mm-hmm. By the way, Fred, it's not like the stuff you'd see on Paris catwalks. These are costumes that are made to look outlandish, ridiculous, oversized, or some people wear heads. Cover up who they are,
big
like
Jared
Leto.
Oh, right.
Pussycat one year.
Great.
Big heads.
Yeah,
big heads.
Yeah.
Lots of big heads. Yeah.
Dan?
Yeah, that's not my story, by the way.
What is your story?
The story is getting down is going down.
Uh-oh.
The number of movies with sex scenes in them is there's less and less of them.
Not on the film service I use.
Which may be
not my film service.
Specialized.
Yeah, my specialized film service. They seem to be having lots of success with the sex.
The amount of sexual content in 2023's 250 highest grossing films declined 40% from 2000. Even steeper was the decline in action movies. Saw sexual content drop 70% since the year 2000. Not only are there fewer sex scenes, but they were more concentrated in a smaller number of movies. So less sex, generally speaking, in movies. The impact of sex scenes, I don't know the exact reasons, but there's some reasons that have been thrown out there, like there are a lot of global releases. So they go into countries with highly restrictive, censors and stuff like that.
I believe Global Release is also a film on my service as well. You might be mistaken. I've watched Global Release recently.
But there's a whole other things, there's that, and also there was thrown in there was the widespread use of intimacy coordinators, which is something that sort of happened since 2000.
I believe Dan was an intimacy coordinator in his youth.
Although, whenever you see trailers, if there is any sex, they always got to put, especially in talk of trailers or promos on television, even in these hour-long law shows and whatever they are, that television still runs. Whenever they do promos, they always have to show like a kiss or some passionate moment. Have you ever noticed that? And it's like, and I often think that is that still titillating people based on what's available at the click of a finger or a click of a mouse?
Click of a finger. I think Click of a Finger is also the name of one of his movies. I have a question for you, too. I don't know the answer to your question, Fred, but what about this? Do you think that, and I'd be curious, I could be interested, too, but what is also decreased is the amount. What's decreased more? Sex scenes or smoking scenes? Because I don't think you see as much smoking.
No.
Even from 10 years ago. There are smoking characters, but man, a lot less than you used to see.
Mm-hmm. I think smoking has probably declined more, but maybe if you opened it up a little bit, because that was probably in the 90s when it started to go away a lot. That was
right.
But what I noticed is that smoking continued in movies at a rate higher than you'd see in everyday society.
Well, Howard, I think if it's a period piece, yes. And then if it's anything current, no. I know something that's disappeared from Canadian commercials is same-race couples. That's gone.
Well, there are none.
Married. No one is marrying the same race anymore, according to Canadian commercials.
Not in my family.
It's funny. But anyway.
Well, getting back
sign of the times.
Well, getting back to it is a sign of the times. We live in a city here in the GTA that's 53% non-white. So television represents that. But I want to just quickly, before we wrap up, smoking, because I saw this dude about our age. I was just driving here in the neighborhood, and he was out in front of a restaurant I guess he worked at or whatever. Guy our age, in his 60s, smoking a cigarette.
Yes.
And I instantly had this thought where once that kind of looked, well, two quick things came to my mind. That once looked cool / normal. So, I don't think I ever started smoking ever smoked because I thought it looked cool, but I must have thought that because it used to be portrayed that way in movies.
Not to look cool, but be cool.
Be cool, but it was a way of being cool. But so right away I see this dude our age, got the beard and, older dude, smoking a cigarette. No longer does it look cool, but it also doesn't look normal. That's the thing I thought quickly was how weird it looked. Because even on the street, you just don't see it very much anymore.
Down in the Dominican, where they have lovely restaurants and some fascinating food, you can smoke in restaurants down there. Very few people do. Like, it's not even really a thing. But when they do, boy, do you notice. Yeah. It's weird. Really weird. And to think, in our lifetime, literally, sort of recent history, that was the norm. Can you imagine that? Being in a restaurant, finishing your day, and everybody lights up. Like, I remember that like it was yesterday.
I did.
It happened.
I used to put I was one of those guys. I'd put a cigarette out on my food. In my food.
In a restaurant?
Yeah.
Oh, Howard, jeez.
It wasn't like I was the only one, trust me.
You do that at home. You don't do that at a restaurant.
All right, let me go back in time and slap myself in the fucking face.
No, but just think of the atmosphere. And Howard, years and years ago, 15 to 20 years ago, Doll and I were going to Montreal. She had to go there on business. I went with her. And you recommended a steakhouse, and I forget which one it was.
Moishes.
I made reservations. We walked in. And we had to get up and leave. I didn't even order. The cigarette smoke was so bad in that place.
Yeah.
I couldn't. Toronto had already adopted the no smoking thing, and I was enjoying that. And then I got to Montreal. We walked in this restaurant. And I said to Doll, I can't eat in here.
No,
I can't.
It wasn't Moishes. It was at other steak. It was at others. Yeah, I know the one I can't remember the name of it. It was fucking fantastic. Yeah. But I mean, in Montreal, they were late to it. They were still smoking in like surgery up until recently.
That's right.
Dan, to your point, Howard,
yes,
your point about smoking on
what was
screen,
the point? On-screen smoking, yes.
On-screen smoking was very rare at this point. But you know what? I've never seen anybody. I can't recall a movie I've ever seen anybody vaping in. And vaping in the 20 to 24, the younger kids, the kids these days, is actually a little bit higher than smoking now.
No, for sure. Absolutely.
You never see vaping in a movie.
No.
Have you ever seen vaping in a movie?
No, I've seen it in a TV series, though. You know what I don't see anymore, and I thought about it this weekend, because this is this first week back golfing in Ontario. There's nobody in my immediate 30 or 40 person golf universe that smokes cigarettes. A couple guys will have a cigar, but I don't know any more. And again, these are guys in their 50s and 60s. How about you? Do you know anybody? I'm trying to think. Do I know anybody that smokes?
Oh, I do. And it bothers me to no end.
Like someone in your immediate circle?
Oh, my longest and dearest friend.
Oh, yeah, of course. Buddy D. Buddy D.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
After Dominican, he claimed that he was going to stop and he was going to go and get the acupuncture in the ear, which actually helped my brother and my nephew quit almost instantly. So he was looking into that. But
dude, I would shoot him that book. Seriously. Send him on Amazon. It's like $6. He can get the version with
Damien's book?
Yes.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
He can get the version with me reading it, although that would be too weird for him. Recorded at Dan Duran's home. Anyway, let's wrap this up. Tomorrow on the program, everybody. What is tomorrow? Tomorrow is it's going to be good. We can talk TV with Bill Brio. And then on Wednesday's program, we were early to this series where Mitch Azaria, this director, and these movies where they just take a camera down these famous waterways in Ontario, and it's hypnotic, but it's an interesting. It's a concept that we've been talking about for a few years, and Mitch is back with his latest film. Freddie, you want to tell us a little bit about the You Know Who? Let me get you some music. Come on, man. There you go.
Our friend Tim Niblett is a portfolio manager, and Raymond James is a member of the Canadian Investors Protection Fund. Tim has a standing offer. So does Sherpa J. Standing offer. If you have a portfolio, you're not really happy with its performance, or you question its performance, Jay or Tim will have a look and let you know, in their opinion, is it on track? Are you where you should be? No strings attached, okay? None. If it looks good, they'll tell you, and you can go about your business. But if they see some problems, then you consider maybe getting the expertise of the Retirement Sherpa. RetirementSherpa.ca.
The name of that kid, comedian that I really like, is a guy named Tony Hinchcliffe. Tomorrow, I just found a source just now of a bunch of clips from the roast. And maybe tomorrow we'll feature just a couple of funny ones. The Belichick one's pretty good. And, have a look at it today, Freddie. I think you'll find it somewhat amusing. I think you really will.
Okay, I will. I promise.
And Dan, what are you up to? When will we see you again?
I don't know yet. Coming soon, though. I mean, I'm not going to stay away from Toronto, but I've got some things at the Guild to do today.
No, it's Guild. Every day is a Guild day.
We're running a Girl in the Goldfish Bowl with Lisa. She's in it. And
how was opening weekend of Girl in the Goldfish Bowl?
It went pretty well. Yeah, they were pretty feeling about it. They had 3 performances over the weekend. The first one was on Friday, and then that even better on Saturday, and then they had a Sunday matinee, which was pretty close to sold out. So
amazing.
And that went even better. So
strangely, Girl in a Goldfish Bowl is also one of the other movies that you see on the sex movies.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah.
Why do you have to be so ignorant?
I don't know.
Yeah. And, it's getting close to the trailer season. So, a beautiful day like today, it may draw me into the lake area as well. So,
by the way, Howard, just today was Cinco de Mayo. Adopting the Spanish culture as you have, did you do anything special on Cinco de Mayo?
Sí, señor.
Paella? Did you have some paella? Paella?
What did I do? I practiced some Spanish. I practice. Yo practico todos los días. That's right. Yo practico español con mis amigos. What did I make for dinner? Fuck, I forgot. Oh, I made spaghetti. Yeah, I made. You know what I did to celebrate Cinco de Mayo? Is I made a spaghetti sauce with chorizo, which is a very common spicy sausage from Mexico. I love chorizo sausage. Can I just say that before the show's over, Dan? I know Dan's like, fuck, stop, enough show. Dan's got guild work to do.
List of possible foods you could be eating, like fish tacos or tamales. Any of that can go.
A hot tamale.
Yeah, I used to love what are they called? Hot tamales? Those little candies. I used to fucking love those.
Oh, we're back to junk food again.
I used to love those hot tamales, and then the Didn't they have like little sombreros, little guys in sombreros? Anyway, Dan's had enough, so we are going to close this program now. Have a great day, everybody. We will see you tomorrow morning.
This episode was brought to you by the Retirement Sherpa, the Chambers Plan, Boron One, ODOG, and Lender's Choice Mortgages. For contests and comments, we read all of the emails. Humble and Fred at humbleandfredradio.com. Tell us what you think. Humble and Fred at humbleandfredradio.com. And, to help us out, you can subscribe to the podcast, recommend the podcast, even rate a podcast. Give us the hearts and stars or whatever they have going for us. For Humble and Fred from the Richard Bullis, a Blood Moon Between Friends Zoom Theater, I'm Dan Duran. And remember, know your body. Colons and prostates, the board game, coming soon. And while you can, enjoy every goddamn day.
Jobs and jamboree handouts, 2 turntables and a microphone. Bottles and cans, or just clap your hands, or just clap your hands. Where's that?